Welcome to The Blast Zone, the podcast where we dig up the bombs that shook Hollywood and try to find out why they went up in flames. This week, what if the Dark Phoenix saga was adapted twice, and both times it sucked, but in completely different ways? This is Dark Phoenix. Welcome to The Blast Zone.
Welcome to The Blast Zone.
We are not a podcast about bad movies. We are a podcast about movies that did badly.
That's right.
I am Jon Drake, in-house film critic of my Letterboxd account.
And I'm Ian Dukes. I'm a person with thoughts and feelings, and some of them are about movies.
Movies like Dark Phoenix, which we'll be talking about today. But before we get into that, Ian, how are you doing this week?
Well, the doctors are doing a test on me. They're sending me in on Monday morning to do some testing because they're starting to suspect I may be part human. But no, for real, I'm getting a kind of a heart scan done, make sure I don't have any heart disease, or at least to make sure that I know exactly what kind I do have, if that happens to be the case. Either way, it's always a little scary to find out what's going on inside the dark and inscrutable blob that is the human body. But I'm trying to set a good example for myself and for others to don't put stuff off too long and get things checked out so you can face whatever it is and deal with it.
That's a very good message to send. I am definitely guilty of putting off things like doctor's appointments and tests because I don't want to know the results. But that doesn't help in the long term. That just makes it worse.
It's normal. I mean, I've put this particular test off, maybe because I didn't want to know, but maybe also because I just didn't want to make the phone calls and work out the calendar, all that stuff, which I don't know, I have this social anxiety stuff. I should probably get tested for social anxiety, but...
Oh, I don't think you need to get tested. You just know. If you want, I'll evaluate you for it.
Okay.
Oh, you have it. Wow, that's crazy.
Can you write me a note?
Sure. But no, I think my ADHD makes navigating the American healthcare system cruel and unusual punishment.
Yeah.
But it's what we got to do if you want to stay on top of shit. So good for you, but I'm sure everything will check out just fine.
Thank you.
And we'll have Ian for many more years until we're all incinerated by nuclear warfare.
We're all happy to see him go. It's been enough. Thank you very much.
I wouldn't do this podcast without you. You do all the hard stuff.
Likewise, but let's not consider that possibility. Yeah. I don't think that's going to happen to us anytime soon.
At least not until we get the results of the test back. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. On a somewhat brighter note, I was just telling you off mic my weekend plans. I am going to Boston to see the Wu-Tang Clan.
Wow.
One of my favorite hip hop groups of all time. The first hip hop group I was a fan of when I was maybe 7 or 8. One of my stepbrothers gave me the 36 Chambers cassette tape. And then my other stepbrother gave me Slayer's South of Heaven. And that just became my personality for the next 30 years.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I've never gotten to see Wu-Tang live. I've seen Method Man live. I've seen Ghostface Killah live separately, but never Wu-Tang. Curious to see, I guess they have ODB's son performing all of ODB's parts. So That'll be fun to see. Really looking forward to it. Going to Boston, a city I enjoy for the most part, although I am driving. That's not great. Okay. But I don't have to drive home after the concert. We're staying overnight.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Aside from the driving, that sounds awesome. I hope it's a great show.
Have you ever had the pleasure of driving in the great city of Boston, Massachusetts?
No, I think my cousin drove me around town for one afternoon, but I've hardly seen any of Boston, so there's a lot for me to explore there. Love to see it.
So, Ian, before we get into Dark Phoenix, did you happen to watch anything that you wanted to tell the listeners about this week?
Oh, boy, did I. I watched a movie called To Live and Die in L.A., which is William Friedkin's 1985 neo-noir cop action thriller. I like crime movies and I like L.A. movies, so this one's been on my list for a while to check out, and it did not disappoint. It's some real 80s cops versus criminals shit. In this case, it happens to be U.S. Secret Service agents chasing counterfeiters, but this movie's got everything that you would want. It's got William Peterson as the hotshot hero cop in black leather jacket and white loafers chasing John Turturro through LAX. It's got a truly unhinged car chase, bloody shootouts, baby-faced Willem Dafoe as the big bad guy. It's got both Peterson and Dafoe hanging dong in separate scenes.
Oh, so you now know the answer to the Willem Dafoe question. Does he truly have a massive dong?
You know, William Peterson does, as far as I could tell in this scene. If that was real, what I caught a glimpse of. Actually, I don't know that you see Willem Dafoe's penis, but there's one scene where they're both bare-ass naked together.
Probably need a special lens to get all of his penis on the screen at the same time.
Yeah, they didn't have that technology in 1985, so William Friedkin was foiled in that part of his effort. But it's wild stuff. It's even got a theme song by the band Wang Chung where they sing the title of the movie, which I guess they're famous for singing titles because they sing the name of their band, and the only other song of theirs that I know
Everybody have fun tonight. Right? That's the band we're talking about.
Yeah. Everybody Wang Chung tonight. And in this movie, they're like to live and die in LA. They just know how to sing the names of shit.
Yeah, maybe not the best lyricists of their generation, but there's a certain charm to what they're doing.
It gives it some real 80s flair. It's very Michael Mann type of shit, but to be fair, Billy Friedkin has a solid claim to call this his type of shit too. So if you like either of their type of stuff, I'd say you got to check out To Live and Die in LA.
I think you could say that Michael Mann, his whole career has kind of been doing Billy Friedkin type shit, but better. I think wow, that's a tough question. Jeez, I'm not prepared to answer it, so I'm not going to dive into it any deeper, but two directors I really love. And I think I'd have to go Mann above Friedkin overall, but Friedkin's got some bangers too.
He does have some bangers, and this is one of them. They both have that corny, cheesy style. They love to take some time to focus on their visuals. I don't know. This movie's got so much going for it. I don't want to say too much because I know how much you're going to enjoy each of the twists and turns and events unfolding.
Yeah, you've motivated me to put To Live and Die in LA right towards the top of my list of movies I need to watch soon. So yeah. I will be checking that out. And you will be checking out Once Upon a Time in America.
That's right.
Which we talked about off mic, because for the longest time I was like, I finally did it. I watched that movie everyone was talking about. And I thought Once Upon a Time in America and To Live and Die in LA were like the same movie. Once Upon a Time in America takes place in New York. I did that thing again in my brain where like I got confused. I feel like that's coming up more and more often lately, where I just think one movie is another one for many years.
You know, there's a lot of movies. Any movie could really realistically be any other movie.
It's true.
You're not that far off.
Thanks for saying that. But I went slightly more contemporary for my movie of the week. I watched a new release, new to home streaming anyway. It came out in theaters in April, turned maybe a small profit, so not eligible for the pod, but it was something that the trailer stuck out to me as a fun idea. It's the classic ominous voice on the telephone is giving you commands, and if you don't follow them, terrible things will happen to the people you love. Much like, wasn't that the Taron Egerton movie you just watched in the airport?
Oh, yeah.
Right? That was a similar vibe.
He was being blackmailed into doing heinous shit.
So it's called Drop. I realized I didn't say the name of the movie. It stars Longmeadow, Massachusetts' own Megan Fahey. Shout out Western Mass. She's basically the anchor of the movie. She's in just about every scene. She's really good in it. Very likable. It's tried and true escalation of circumstances and stressors being added into the situation at all stops, but super well done. Very tight movie. I don't even think it cracks an hour and a half when it's all said and done from title card to credits. And I didn't even realize it when I turned it on, but it is Christopher Landon, who's a director I have a lot of time for. I think I talked about them on the pod, but he did the Happy Death Day movies, which I think are some really fun comedy horror, like Groundhog Day, time loop type of scenarios that you would enjoy. Certainly nothing that's going to keep you up at night in fear. None of his movies really have that level of visceral, frightening elements to them. They're pretty lighthearted as far as horror movies go. And he did Freaky, which was when a serial killer played by Vince Vaughn swaps bodies with a young woman. So like a Freaky Friday take, but one of them's a serial killer.
Oh, wow.
Which is like a really clever concept for a movie and well executed too. It's a really fun time. And Drop doesn't have as much of the comedy elements as a lot of his other work. It's played more straight, but I think it's a successful thriller. I wouldn't even call it horror. It doesn't really scratch that itch necessarily. There's no blood or gore really to speak of. No real jump scares either. It's just, like I said, escalating tensions. And as it ramps up, you have to stay on your toes.
Neat. This kind of sounds like a theme. We were talking about that Taron Egerton movie, which I can't think of what it was called, about the airport. And then you just watched that Bill Skarsgård movie where he's held hostage on the phone.
I talked about that on the pod, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
You know what it is? I think, first of all, you don't need as many actors. And like, sure, Ben Kingsley's in the Bill Skarsgård one. Oh, not Ben Kingsley. Anthony Hopkins is in it.
Oh, right.
But it's just his voice for 99% of it. So you probably don't have to pay him his quote. It's probably cheaper to make.
Yeah, at least it's easier to get him to say yes when he knows he can just go to a sound booth and read the entire script down one afternoon.
Oh, Carry On, it was called.
Yes.
Just look it up. That's what I got for this week. So now it's time to stop delaying and get into Dark Phoenix. So before we start talking about the movie too deeply, I know you were a comic reader around the time of Dark Phoenix. I was not alive when Dark Phoenix was written, but I did go back to it as a preteen, like 11 or 12, because the X-Men animated series did a really good job adapting it. And I was like, I want to read the comic book about it. So it was a storyline that was pretty important to me as a young comic book fan. Did you have any familiarity with it? Were you reading the X-Men at that time?
I think I was. I think that was probably in the era when I was going down to Golden Apple Comics on Melrose, a classic LA comic shop, and buying new titles and buying slightly older titles out of the bins there. That being said, I only remembered certain glimpses of that storyline. I remembered that there was the space soap opera element to it. There was a queen. X-Men was pretty soap opera-ish through that period in general, maybe through all their periods, but it was pretty convoluted. And when I went back to read on Wikipedia what the actual full Dark Phoenix story was in the comics the first time, I'm like, there's way more to it there than I ever remembered at all. But by the time like this movie came out, I should have maybe been interested just for general reasons that I thought that was the kind of cool X-Men stuff that I liked. But I think I remember hearing right away that it was bad bad. And then hearing
Yeah.
that it was like not just bad, but like maybe the worst movie ever made. Like people were just freaking out about how much they disliked this thing, and I avoided it. And maybe because of that, now that I actually saw it, I think it's kind of fine and maybe even better than the average superhero movie, given that superhero movies are a real mixed bag and the lows are pretty low. I didn't think this was all that bad.
Yeah, I closed out last week's episode with some strong words about Dark Phoenix.
Yeah.
And after watching it a few times this week for the pod, I think a lot of that was residual bad vibes from Apocalypse, which I think is a much worse movie than Dark Phoenix. And I didn't see Apocalypse in theaters. I didn't see Dark Phoenix in theaters. So I watched Apocalypse maybe 2 weeks before I watched Dark Phoenix at home, because I was like, oh, I got to catch up before I watch Dark Phoenix. I want to see what happened. And I liked Days of Future Past quite a bit, the one that precedes Apocalypse.
Yeah.
That's not like a hot take. I think most people consider that one pretty good.
I remember that getting praise.
And I was like, this movie is competently made. It is certainly not a masterpiece on any level. And I have more than a fair share of qualms, but I came away from it not angry. I was bored at times. I was disappointed, but I was never like, this is a filmmaking failure. It's just, it didn't deliver what I wanted it to.
I think that's a fair assessment. It falls a little short. It aims pretty high in terms of trying to do serious drama, because the Dark Phoenix story has major drama in it, right? There's death of loved ones, there's betrayal, there's major characters changing sides and trying to kill each other. It's some heavy shit, and it leans right into that, and it just mostly falls a little flat on the heavy drama. You're like, ooh, this feels a little more stilted than really engrossing. But that's kind of the harshest criticism I can come up with for it, is that it's just a little bit cardboardy and confusing and not awful.
If I had one major nit to pick with this movie, it would be that it skimps on what I think is a lot of people's favorite part of the saga, which is the space opera element of it. You have the Shi'ar Empire and Queen Lilandra, who's maybe like not really a bad guy, but she's after someone we love, Jean Grey, that we've known for years, but for the right reasons. And you got the Hellfire Club, and you've got the Kree and the Skrull. There's all these alien races popping up, and there's all these politics between them.
Right.
And there's all these like centuries, millennia old conflicts that are being brought up in the wake of what the Phoenix is doing throughout the galaxy. And like, this movie just $200 million. I refuse to believe this fucking CW looking movie is the best you could come up with. There's barely any outer space in it.
That's true.
That's the whole shit about the Phoenix. She's a cosmic being.
They absolutely hand wave the outer space stuff and explain it halfway through. It's the inciting incident of the movie. Cosmic force infiltrates the body of the heroine, Jean Grey, and they're just like, that was a solar flare or something. That's a weird force. What's going on? And she's like, I feel weird for over an hour. And then an alien shows up and explains it to her in a real quick, like, once you know the real story that they based it on, the fact that they go, oh, this is a force and it killed my planet and we've been chasing it and now we're going to try to use the force for good, which she's actually lying about it. It's like, wow, there's just none of that complexity in there.
Are you talking about fan favorite X-Men comic book character Vuk?
Yeah.
Not Emma Frost, that's for sure. Definitely not supposed to be Emma Frost, just Vuk.
Okay.
I'm lying, of course. That is obviously meant to be Emma Frost originally, and they had to fucking switch it up in the third act for some reason. Not the third act of the movie, the third act of the filmmaking.
Of the production, late in the production. Yeah, I was actually surprised, and I guess we'll get to it in a minute, the actual twists and turns that the production took with reshoots and rewrites late. It's surprising how far it went from where it started. The fact that they would be changing the villains entirely
right
after it was shot.
A couple times, more than once.
It's wild.
Wild stuff. But before I get into the making of it, because there is some behind the scenes drama that's pretty interesting about this movie, I wanted to ask, have you ever seen X-Men The Last Stand?
Probably.
Which was the final movie of the original trilogy, directed by Brett Ratner.
Is that a Kelsey Grammer one?
Yes.
I remember him in the wreckage of some building at the end of one of the movies, and that might have been The Last Stand.
That sounds like The Last Stand. I don't think Kelsey Grammer was in that many of these, because then after The Last Stand, it went back to First Class, which was with the young squad.
Okay.
Even younger than these ones. I don't think any of these actors were in. Jennifer Lawrence, maybe. But that was Fassbender and McAvoy's debut as their characters. And Emma Frost is in that one, which is weird.
Oh.
Played by January Jones, if I'm not mistaken. So, but The Last Stand it's funny. It was written by Kinsberg.
Oh.
And he hated it. He didn't like how it turned out. And he was like, I want another shot. And he made another bad version of the Dark Phoenix.
We'll get into his career. That's a guy who's had an incredible amount of opportunity to work on all these huge franchises. We probably won't be all that impressed with everything that he's done, including this movie.
He's kind of a hack.
But the guy is popular in Hollywood. Like, they're just putting him in charge of all kinds of massive budget things, and it's not slowing down, apparently.
Yeah, if you want to know my thoughts on Simon Kinberg's career, go back to our Dark Tower episode and listen to my rant about Akiva Goldsman's career, because pretty much the same
Just you could just copy and paste that rant over.
Same exact dude, except Akiva Goldsmith's been at it for 20 years longer, pumping out horse shit. But anyway, would you like to hear about the making of this movie? It's one of our more interesting ones as of late.
Yeah, for sure. Let's hear how this thing happened.
All right. In June 2019, Fox released X-Men Dark Phoenix, the movie that would close out nearly 20 years of the franchise and end the run with the cinematic equivalent of a shrug. After the timeline reset of Days of Future Past, the studio decided to take another crack at the Dark Phoenix storyline, which they'd already sort of butchered back in X-Men The Last Stand, a movie that co-writer Simon Kinberg himself admitted he was never satisfied with. So when Kinberg got the director's chair for the first time, he vowed to do it right. The problem is, doing it right turned out to mean doing it again, but with more CGI space goo.
Cyclops, is that hair gel?
Early on, the plan was much bigger. 2 films shot back-to-back exploring Jean Grey's descent into Phoenix-level power and her struggle to stay human. There was even talk of bringing in the Hellfire Club and Emma Frost. But after X-Men Apocalypse underperformed and the Fox-Disney merger started to loom, the studio hit the brakes.
You in trouble, Marvel girl.
Plans were scaled down to a single film, the aliens were swapped around during reshoots, and Jessica Chastain's villain changed name and species mid-production from mutant to Skrull to Dabari and Emma Frost to Vuk, which is the kind of lazy bullshit name an alien name generator in 1998 would spit out.
Vuk, there it is.
Principal photography started in 2017 under the working title Teen Spirit, which ironically the movie had too little of.
Here we are now. Entertain us.
Test screenings went poorly, forcing last-minute rewrites and a long string of delays. The release date jumped from November 2018 to February 2019, and then to June 2019, landing at just a couple weeks after Avengers Endgame, which you might recall was a slightly more successful Marvel movie.
Mr. Xavier, I don't feel so good.
Even before it opened, expectations were low. The marketing budget was slashed when Disney took over, and they only had 2 months to promote it. Despite that, the studio still expected a $50 million opening weekend. What they got was $32 million, a franchise low by almost $20 million, and a second weekend drop of over 70%. Critics panned the film, audiences ignored it, and Simon Kinberg eventually went on a podcast to take the blame, while gently pointing out that Disney releasing it in Endgame shadow probably didn't help. The movie's failure also effectively killed off Fox's plans for the younger X-Men cast to anchor future installments. Instead, Marvel has swept the mutants into the MCU, leaving Dark Phoenix as the limp, unloved swan song of the franchise.
Haha, swan song. I see what you did there.
Wordplay.
I think we got to be fair to Kinberg. That was some pretty sucky timing. Not just timing specifically in coming out 2 weeks after Endgame hit theaters and probably dominated the box office for a while, but just going head to head with Endgame over the 10 years of Marvel movies leading up to Endgame. It's like that was a point where the industry milked every bit of comic book movie enthusiasm out of audiences to the point where they were like ready to let go, but they couldn't because Endgame still had a compelling case to make that you got to see it wrap up. But like at some other point in the recent history of Marvel movies, this movie would have been perfectly good enough to make money. That's my thought.
It is crazy how much just the enthusiasm around the MCU and comic book movies deflated like a balloon after Endgame because people they were almost relieved.
Yeah, they were spent.
They hit the reset button and they were like, I could jump in again if I want, but I don't have to. And maybe I'll wait a little while. I don't like myself. I just never really went back to it. If I see a Marvel movie now, it's because I'm interested in that particular one and not the overarching stories. But the X-Men movies did feel out of place once the MCU really got rolling. Like they felt like relics of a different time.
Yeah, they actually reminded you of Marvel movies' dysfunctional past in that sense. So it's like, oh, we're going back to that. That's the funky side of the family that we don't appreciate when they show up to the reunions. Although the X-Men still have enduring charm, and I think people are excited to see them be folded back into movies again. I don't think people are done with the X-Men. I'm not. I still have love in my heart for the X-Men, but this movie was at the end of a run and it just didn't have the juice.
Yeah, they got in their own ass a little too much with the timelines in the X-Men movies to the point where it felt legitimately difficult to unravel.
Yeah.
One thing we were talking about is the first X-Men movie comes out in 2001, somewhere around there. This movie takes place in 92. So in 8 years, James McAvoy is going to be Patrick Stewart and Michael Fassbender is going to be old ass Ian McKellen and Sophie Turner is going to be Famke Johnson. Come on. No, it's not even that the actors don't resemble themselves. They're not even written like they were the same person. And I feel like that's a risk you run when you have different people on the creative team, but you're trying to tell a story across however many movies. It seems like they chose to just ignore Dark Phoenix because, like they said, they reset the timelines in Days of Future Past. But if you're going to bring all this baggage, then I'm going to include it in my evaluation of your movie. You didn't nail those parts of it. You didn't make these characters feel like the same characters we knew from the other movies.
Maybe that's why it's a little bit better watching it now, because those expectations, we can let go of them, right? Like when it's part of a contiguous series of movies, you feel that homework assignment kind of feeling like, oh, I got to catch up. I got to remember what happened in the last movie, and I got to connect this to the characters that I might have known and loved from something I saw 8 years ago. But now it's like, oh, this is just a random X-Men movie. At least it was to me when I put it on. I'm like, I know who the characters are, who they're supposed to be in general from the comics and other movies, but I don't feel any pressure to connect the dots on anything. And it's honestly much easier to enjoy that way.
Yeah, it is a movie that mediocre doesn't mean bad. It means unremarkable. And like, this is the definition of a mediocre movie to me. If you just kind of let it wash over you, it'll be over before you realize, and you won't have gained anything, but you wouldn't have lost anything either. It's fine. It's just fine. Should we get into the plot, such as it is?
Let's dive into this. Here we go. Even as a child, Jean Grey already had mental superpowers that sometimes went out of her control. While on a road trip with her family, a burst of Jean's telekinetic energy crashed the car and killed her mother. After that, she was taken in by Professor Charles Xavier at his upstate school for gifted children. 17 years later, as a member of the X-Men, Jean, played by Sophie Turner, goes on an emergency mission to space to rescue a damaged space shuttle. The team saves the astronauts, but a huge burst of purple space energy enters Jean's body and overwhelms her. Back on Earth, Jean recovers, but she's carrying a new enormous power that threatens to send her out of control again. Even her true love Scott, aka Cyclops, played by Sheridan, isn't safe from her outbursts. It turns out that years ago, Charles put up barriers in Jean's mind to block out her childhood trauma, and now, with her new surge of power, the barriers are crumbling down. When Jean realizes that her father is actually alive, and Charles has lied about his death all this time, she has a psychic confrontation with Charles and leaves the school to go search for her dad. Back in her hometown, she finds her father, who admits he gave her up to Charles because he was afraid of her. The X-Men arrive to try to bring Jean home, but the emotional conflict causes her powers to surge, and she loses control. Mystique, played by Jennifer Lawrence, tries to approach Jean, but she lashes out with an angry burst of telekinetic power that impales Mystique on broken shards of wood, killing her. Horrified with what she's inadvertently done, Jean flees the scene. Later, as the grieving X-Men bury Mystique, a powerful alien in disguise named Vuk, played by Jessica Chastain, visits Jean's father looking for clues to her whereabouts. Vuk and a bunch more of her alien race, known as the Dabari, have come to Earth seeking to harness the cosmic power that has inhabited Jean's body, and they plan to use it to wipe out humanity.
But why? Doesn't matter.
No.
Don't think about it too much.
Blink and you'll miss it. Jessica Chastain has like one line about it. No, this power, we wiped out our planet and now we want to make a new planet for ourselves. Maybe.
I just want to point out that you are the one that supposedly likes this movie more than I do. And you started your notes with the following line: more like fart Penix.
You know what? I can't resist a good wordplay joke. That's got to be one of the best ones I've written.
A classic. All right. What do we like about this first act?
I was going to say it looks good in terms of entertaining you and keeping you watching. I was like, I kind of like to see Nightcrawler just bamf around the screen. I like to see close-ups of Jennifer Lawrence's face, which I like in any conditions, but she's all blue and mystique-ified. And in contrast to the older X-Men movies that I remembered, she doesn't look like she's covered in slimy grease paint and rubber appliques stuck to her. Like her skin looks like skin. Her hair color still needs some work, but I'm like, the effects are kind of nice to watch.
Yeah, pretty cool. She's going to grow 7 inches and become Rebecca Romaine in the next 10 years.
I didn't think of that.
But yeah, when Rebecca Romaine was in the Mystique suit, and even I think the first couple Jennifer Lawrence movies, I think it took them like 15 hours in the makeup chair. And that's one of the reasons I think Jennifer Lawrence, she started not talking down on these movies in the press, but being like, I'm ready to be done with them.
Oh, yeah.
Mostly because I think of the makeup situation. But then she was out of her contract when this movie was being made. Her, McAvoy, Fassbender, I think that might have been it. But they were all out of their contracts and could have just declined to come back, and they came back.
Oh, interesting.
I think a lot of that was goodwill towards Kinsberg, who they'd all worked with because he was a writer on previous movies and they all got along. I think even Lawrence said, like, I will come back if he directs it. But yeah, her blue hue does look a little more natural in this movie than it has in the past. So not mad about that.
Yeah, I have a question for you as our certified comics lore expert. Are Mystique and Nightcrawler and Beast all the exact same hue value of blue for a mutant reason that explains it? Or is that just like the filmmakers were like, we're going to do one shade just to not confuse people?
It's interesting because it's not just Beast, Nightcrawler, and Mystique. You've also got Mr. Sinister's kind of blue.
Okay.
Apocalypse is blue. It turns out we are not the first people to have this thought. According to Reddit, why are there so many blue mutants? And it's an easy color to print, is what it boils down to.
So it's a comic book coloring reason.
Yes. As far as I could tell, there's no lore canon reason that they're all the same hue of blue. Just then probably saved them on the makeup budget a little bit.
Or like the CGI budget. Were they actually made up in those colors on set?
I think Jennifer Lawrence has been in a blue suit for every one of her X-Men movies, but I'm sure they've gotten smarter at doing part of the suit practical and part of it CGI maybe.
Right.
Yeah, can't say for sure. I didn't watch any behind the scenes stuff on this movie to see.
Yeah, I didn't either. But whenever I see all those characters, I'm like, their eyes, man, I feel bad for the actors. I'm like, please tell me they just CGI'd their eyes and they don't have to wear big scleral shells and fuck up their eyeballs all day on set to get orange or yellow or whatever color eyes these different creatures have.
Yeah, that at least should be able to CGI. I know, like, props to Rebecca Romaine because she was doing this all lo-fi. She had real contacts in her eyes and blue makeup all over. I hope they've made it a little easier now. You hear horror stories like from that era. Remember Jim Carrey being the Grinch? He said that was like an excruciating experience.
Oh, shit.
More than 10 hours in the makeup chair every day and then just like in pain the entire time.
Yeah.
John Rhys Davies with all the dwarf prosthetics, he turned out to be allergic to a bunch of them and he just couldn't breathe the entire time he was in costume.
That's why dwarves are cranky, because of the makeup.
Yeah. And they have sleep apnea, I think, too.
Probably.
They're built like me, so I can relate. So that's good. What's bad? Everything else. The story we mentioned, it is pretty low. Like for a global threat, it stays pretty low to the ground and feels almost like a side quest.
I like that they didn't go Avengers and like no cities were destroyed in the making of this movie. Like there was the threat, there was the sort of illustrated vision, Vuk's vision of like, this is how we're going to burn the whole damn planet up. But yeah, it was pretty personal. I actually think that I put that check mark on the good side. But for me, the core thing, like this movie is driven, it's a movie about Jean Grey, her whole life, this particular moment in her life where she loses control more than she's ever lost it before. It's very well illustrated. We know exactly when it's happening, how it's happening, what's happening, but they just don't bother to tell you why. There's a big kind of why about Jean Grey that's missing. Like the way she loses control is, for a minute I was like, oh, it's because of her childhood trauma, but her childhood trauma was because of her losing control. That was the cause, not the effect. So it makes the whole fact that she just goes nuts and hurts people kind of like a random thing that happens to her. And that's a little bit unsatisfying.
Yeah. And I always thought of the Dark Phoenix saga. You know, it has a lot of a subtext, but the main one was about sexual awakening, which is completely sidelined in this movie.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I didn't even think of that.
For just some kind of rote explanation about childhood trauma, like you said. But also, like you said, this was already dormant in her before that trauma even happened. So it's very subpar execution. It's not well explained. And sorry to say, I don't think Sophie Turner has it in her.
That's maybe the other point where we're going to start to talk about what we think is bad about the movie, some of the acting. I'm conflicted about Sophie Turner. I think she has some star quality.
She's got charisma for sure.
And she's got a star face. Like, as shallow as that sounds, one of the key qualities for movie stars is you got to be able to put their face extremely close up on a 40-foot high screen and have people enjoy just seeing it that big. And she's got one of those faces. So I don't think they made a mistake in saying she could be a movie star, but can she play Jean Grey? Can she figure out what to do with this underbaked and twisted script to bring some humanity to this character? I think she didn't really succeed at that.
No, I mean, the Phoenix is supposed to feel like Jean Grey with all her inhibitions released, good and bad. Like the power she has is supposed to feel infatuating to her. Like she can't control it and she doesn't really want to. She's supposed to be wild. And I think she just alternates between looking sad, scared, and annoyed. That's about as heightened as the emotions get.
Yeah, I think that's a good observation. I totally forgot about that. That was clearly a big part of that character from the comic books. And they could have done that with her. She started as this young girl in this franchise. And they could have had her sort of come into herself as a woman who was like sexual and also just generally empowered and free after being this sort of goody two-shoes girl that she grew up as, this Marvel girl persona that she initially had. But they didn't go that way.
I think they nodded towards it in the party after the rescue mission.
True.
When they're all like, she starts getting a little more...
she gets drunk. That's the one thing.
She gets drunk and she's a little more, I don't say the aggressor, the initiator of like romance between herself and Cyclops.
But she's like, let's dance. And he's like, you want to dance? And that's supposed to be like a dramatic moment.
She's fucking crazy, dude.
She wants to dance at a dance party.
Can I throw some things rapid fire at you?
Yeah, please.
McAvoy's bad in this. Turner's bad in this. Sheridan is bad in this. Hoult is okay. Lawrence is good. Fassbender's good. Kobe Smith-McPhee's good.
Yeah.
That's what I got.
I think that's pretty fair. I find McAvoy very charismatic. So even when he's being weird, I mean, he's very theatrical as Xavier, but even though it's kind of stiff and weird, I can't help having positive feeling towards him.
You got to let go of your goodwill towards James McAvoy. We all have it. All right. I have it too,
Okay.
But I had to put that aside. It's not the time and place for that. Ty Sheridan is another actor I really like. I loved him in The Card Counter. He's got a bright career ahead of him, I'm sure. But first of all, he's wearing a muscle suit and you could fucking tell.
Yeah.
He put in zero time at the gym and they just gave him some fucking padding under his leather coat. And it's hard to say he's bad in this because he doesn't get a lot to do, even though he should be one of the emotional cornerstones of this whole plot. He's not. He has a few nice moments with Turner.
Yes.
But they don't really have any chemistry.
Yeah, you kind of don't buy it. They're saying it. We love each other. We'll always be there for each other. They say the words, but you're like, I don't get it.
I think she's 4 inches taller than him too.
Yeah, which is cute. Like, I actually like that aspect of it.
Hey, I'm a short guy with a tall redhead wife, so I get it.
You're all about that. But you know what? To give Ty Sheridan a break, fucking acting in dark sunglasses is hard as shit, man. Talk about a handicap. You just look like an asshole the moment you come on screen. Which is fine for the Scott Summers character, but it's hard to get sympathy.
He's got the hater blockers on, which, it's tough to emote.
It is. It really is.
And there is a theme running throughout this movie that like the dudes are always fucking stuff up and it's up to the ladies to save the day, which I really have no problem with if that's the direction they wanted to go in it. But they shoehorned in a really bad line and really bad line delivery from Jennifer Lawrence, who, like I said, I think is pretty good in this movie. But she goes, since we're always saving the day, maybe you should call it the X Women, and then marches out of Professor X's office. And I was like, you thought you did something there. That wasn't a great line.
The first half of the movie has all this tension between Professor X and Mystique, Professor X and Hank McCoy, and at least this full-on breakdown in their relationships. But you're never sure how to feel because McAvoy's weird and stilted. You're like, wait, does the movie think he's actually in the wrong and Beast is in the right?
I think he was. I was kind of on Beast's side, but I did think Nicholas Holt's drunk acting in that scene where he tries to confront Professor X about it was pretty bad. Where they're like sitting at the kitchen table.
Yeah.
And that's when he finally like lets him have it. But it's pretty funny, like how much he overdoes it with trying to pretend to be drunk and in despair.
Yeah, that was an awkward scene from both of them. Like they were trying to do something, but it was weird.
But I think Mystique and Beast both had good points. They just,
yes.
And Mystique delivered them pretty well most of the time.
Yeah, it's a good premise. Like the elements were there in the story for like, how do we cause this breaking point between these characters who have been dedicated to working together all this time? And I guess that's why probably on the second watch, as more of those little elements seeped in and I was more accepting of the faults and catching more of the nuances, I warmed up to it even more because I'm like, oh, I like this. It's fucked up. Mystique gets killed in the first act and it ruins things for Hank, who's pretty likable. It creates this real doubt like, oh, maybe Charles is actually a fucked up narcissist and it is his fault. These are good dramatic questions. They don't play as well as they should.
Yeah, I think there's a better movie trying its hardest to come out and it just can't clear
Yeah.
it. I did want to talk before we move on to Act 2 about the showdown at the Gray family home. Do you think it was a good idea to make her dad such a fucking shit? This dude sucks so bad.
I like that. I enjoyed that he was a piece of shit.
He sucks so much. And they could have went a different route where he's like guilty but haunted and scared, but he's just like, you killed my wife. That was my favorite person. I don't want to be your friend anymore.
Yeah, he's like, I can't handle you. The character, you're right, is not very likable, but I think that's a testament to the actor doing a good job. You have some sympathy. His wife did die in front of his face in a horrific car accident caused by his daughter.
She's got these uncontrollable powers. Yeah.
And for him to go, Charles, you got to take my girl. Like, I'm scared of her. I hate her right now and get her out of here. You can forgive him for that. But then when you meet him again, you're like, oh, this guy just sucks.
It's 25 years later and or however long, and he still just hates you. Does he, when Vuk twists his ribcage, does that kill him? That was unclear. Is he dead?
I could imagine he was dead at the end of it, but like she twists his ribcage at the beginning of an interrogation because she's trying to get answers out of him. She's like, oh, I wish I didn't have to do this because it's easier to understand your language when you're not screaming. And then she gives him the titty twister from deep space, which looks really painful, turns his sternum in a knot. But she hasn't even started asking asking the questions about Jean. So I imagine she keeps him alive for a while.
I feel like any one of those things would just kill me immediately. Any one of her torture methods would just kill me immediately, and I would not be able to answer any questions. It seems short-sighted. The shock of Jean killing Raven did land for me, but like you pointed out, the build up to all her like losing control, it just keeps repeating. Like it's the same kind of thing over and over again.
Yeah, and with no more real explanation. It's like a bunch of people going, hey, Jean, chill out. I love you. I'm here to help you. And her just standing there and then just randomly going, no, stop. And then lashing out and killing her friend. It doesn't help shed any more light into her inner conflict, the nature of this problem, any of the stuff that's at the center of the movie that continues to be random and confusing.
Yeah. Was there anything else from this section we had to go over? Or should I get into the second act?
No, I guess we can fly away to Act 2.
Come fly with me. After the tragic outburst in her hometown, Jean flies to an island colony of mutant refugees led by Eric Lencher, played by Michael Fassbender, also known as Magneto. She asks Eric's help controlling her powers, but then 2 army helicopters arrive to try to arrest Jean, and in another violent surge of her powers, she drives off the soldiers. Eric tells her she has to leave for bringing trouble to his peaceful refuge, and she flies off. Soon after, another visitor arrives at Eric's island. It's Hank McCoy, also known as Beast, played by Nicholas Hoult. Hank blames Charles for Mystique's death and asks Eric's help to track Jean down and kill her. Eric also loved Mystique, and he agrees. Meanwhile, in New York City, Jean is approached by Vuk, fucking stupid ass, who says she can help Jean learn to harness the cosmic power inside her and evolve into the greatest force in the galaxy. So Jean takes up with the Dabari. Outside the New York location, Charles and the remaining X-Men arrive to try to rescue Jean. At the same time, Hank, Magneto, and his allies arrive to kill her. The 2 groups engage in a fierce battle in the street outside, but eventually Charles gets inside and uses his psychic powers to break through to Jean. She stops trying to kill them and instead offers up her cosmic power to Vuk. As Vuk begins to absorb the power, Charles realizes she plans to use it to kill everyone on Earth, so Cyclops interrupts the process by blasting Vuk out of the room. But before the various mutants on both sides can regroup, they're all captured by US troops, restrained in collars that suppress their powers, and put on a train headed to a containment facility. Before I forget, I really wanted to talk about the scene where Charles finds out that Vuk is planning to use this power to kill everyone on Earth, because he reads her mind and goes, "You'll kill us all." And she goes, "Yes." And it was just the dumbest fucking thing I've ever seen.
It's some real on-the-nose villain telling you their plans kind of shit. And she's hugging Sophie Turner at this point because she's absorbing her power. And she's just grinning at Charles over Sophie's shoulder going, "Yes, we're going to kill the fuck out of you guys." And he's like, "Oh my God.
Your lives mean nothing." And they're not matching each other's energy because he's all almost like, how do I describe the acting performance he gives in this scene? He like can't believe it. It's like the evil alien that's killing your friend. She wants to kill other people. It's like, "You'll kill us all."
He's supposed to be this ultimate smarty pants guy who knows what's going on. And they're all caught by surprise by Vuk because she's such a mysterious...
Because she's a nothing character that comes out of nowhere and means nothing to anyone. I firmly maintain you don't need the Dabari in this movie at all. If you're going to cut all the cool space shit from this movie, just have it be Jean Grey, can't control her powers. She becomes a little too comfortable using them for her own personal reasons. And then the X-Men have to team up and bring her back without killing her.
Yeah, I get why for storytelling reasons that's a little challenging. You know, you're supposed to have a person that embodies the evil side, that's the pure evil side. So I get why they thought they needed that character. Just so everyone knows, I wrote in the notes that Jessica Chastain is pretty good as Vuk, and John crossed it out and said, "Fuck you."
Said disagree in all caps. This is a nothing character. At her best, Chastain is passable in this role, and at her worst, she's downright bad. And I am a Jessica Chastain fan.
No, I think what I was referring to when I said she was good was that she looks fucking creepy. Like, the thing that made me realize what a good actor she is, which stands out in this movie where not all the performances are very strong, is on second watch. Because most of this movie, she's Vuk and she's doing hardcore, super evil villain shit where she just looks creepy and she does very quiet, severe, sinister stuff. Typical movie villain stuff. And I go, oh, that's just Jessica Chastain being Jessica Chastain. Not really thinking about what I'd seen her do in other movies. But in the opening scene of this movie where the real woman who looks like Vuk is taken over by the alien who is Vuk, for 10 seconds, Jessica Chastain is playing this bright, bubbly, happy party girl at her own dinner party right before she goes outside and the aliens get her. And it's so different. The energy is so incredibly different that I was like, holy shit, Jessica Chastain is a good actress.
Yeah. And that first character is like a character she could play in her sleep, probably. Like, it's very much in her wheelhouse.
And like a line and a half, she puts so much bubbly, positive energy on screen that I was like, oh, wow, that's the power of acting.
Actually, the relationship between that character and her husband is more fleshed out. Like, you're like, wow, this guy's a little overbearing. He doesn't really, he's not really kind. He maybe doesn't listen to her a lot when she's talking, and he's a chauvinist. Like, wow, they got a lot across in 1 or 2 sentences with these people, but they couldn't do that for the actual main characters of the movie.
That's funny, but you're right. I feel like I know that couple at the beginning of the movie who were vaporized moments later.
Absolutely. From a purely superficial standpoint, I did think that, like, Jessica Chastain, I think her skin tone just doesn't work well with bleach blonde hair. Like, her skin is darker than her hair, or the opposite. Like, her hair, even though it's blonde, it's too light, and it feels alien, which is a good thing for the role, but I don't know. I've just seen Jessica Chastain with red hair for 20 years of my life, and it just threw me off.
I think you were upset that she wasn't as gorgeous as she usually is on screen, which I get that, but I felt like that was actually a good choice. They like bleached her eyebrows, so it looked like she looked fairly disturbing in this.
Especially when she's hugging Jean Grey and whispering villainous nothings in her ear.
Sucking the purple cosmic goo out of her.
Hate when that happens. But let's talk about another one of the bright spots. Here we get our first glimpse of Fassbender as Magneto.
Yeah.
The man, let's be real. We're both Fassbender boys. We love him.
He's great. He does not let the weaknesses of this movie bring him down at all. Like, he pops on screen and you're like, oh shit, drama. Let's take this guy seriously, because he just projects gravitas.
He does, but you had a bit of a qualm with his gravitas projection.
He lets it slip at one point because, for story reasons, he has to open the old steamer trunk under his bed and put on a helmet. He doesn't go full costume, so he's got like a steel gray version of the helmet, and he's got like a matching trench coat, and it's just hard to be taken seriously in a trench coat and a helmet walking through Central Park.
At least it's not purple and pink like the old comics. But then I thought, if we didn't have the helmet, we wouldn't have gotten what I thought was a really cool moment, which is where Jean Grey starts crushing his helmet while he's wearing it, which I was like, the movie keeps coming up with like really creative and fun ways to show how powerful Jean Grey is, and the actor just can't convey it in their performance. There's a moment in that same scene right after she crushes Magneto's helmet, not enough to kill him, just put him out of commission, where she tells Charles to walk to her, and Charles is paralyzed, of course. So she like puppets him with her mind.
Yeah.
And it's pretty disturbing and effective, because he's not like, it's clear that like she didn't give him somehow telepathically the gift of being able to walk. She is literally moving his limbs for him, and he looks like terrified and upset, and he's moving very like herky jerky and unnaturally. And I was like, this is a fucked up scene. This feels like something out of a horror movie almost.
It was. That was one of the good moments where they created a cool image. And
it feels like it's like a violation for somebody who's paralyzed, or really anybody, just to manipulate their body against their will.
Exactly.
In that way. Like, it's probably the most evil thing she does in the movie, knowingly.
Yes.
It's not an outburst of emotion that she can't control. She's like, I'm going to do this thing, and then she does it.
But yeah, coming back around, and I don't want to just keep harping on Sophie Turner this whole episode, but just to come back around to the character choices and the inclusion of Vuk as the villain, the problem that I see when you put that very evil, literal villain on screen is, for the story to really work and for Jean's story to really work, the villain needs to be offering Jean something that she wants, right? She needs to be tempting her for some side of her personality that was legitimately unfulfilled, to be like, I can give you that thing that you wanted. And there's some nods to that, and it's like, you could be the most powerful being in the universe, but it's really cursory, and there's no sense that that taps into anything that we know about Jean, that maybe she was under-recognized or people didn't appreciate her powers or something. There's nothing personal about it for Jean. It's just like a random alien said, hey, you're supposed to be the most powerful being. And she's like, oh, okay, I guess I'm going to fulfill my destiny. But there's nothing that connects to her emotional core wants and needs. And that's where the whole thing just feels like an exercise and not a story.
Yeah, and that's a writing failure, not an acting failure. Like, I don't feel that's a harp on Sophie Turner's ability, because they didn't give her those things to work with.
They didn't give her that want that was tapped into by the villain.
Yeah, no, totally. That's a good call out. That it does feel like she's risking so much and giving so much of herself to this person because they promised her something we had no idea she ever even wanted.
Probably the reason she didn't know she wanted it was they came up with it as the third version of the villain in post-production. Right. So there's no way she could have known. They filmed the whole movie without telling anybody.
I think what this movie is really taught is that the Dark Phoenix saga specifically, and like great sagas in general, are greater than the sum of their parts. Like, that you need all these different things working together to make the story feel complete and whole, and just cherry picking the parts that you think will work on screen and then making a movie out of it. You can't be shocked when it doesn't scratch the itch people were hoping it would.
I mean, they had a lot of hard work to do to try to, like, as it is with big franchise movies like this, to try to satisfy everybody and build something out of the parts. parts that they had, but they just couldn't quite connect some of the core connective tissue. So it leads to a kind of unsatisfying story.
Agreed. All right. Are we ready to take it home?
Yeah, let's get on the train home. On the prison train, restrained and incapacitated, Charles, Eric, Hank, and Scott debate the need to protect Jean and to stop Vuk and her alien comrades. Just then, helicopters approach and all the Dabari leap out onto the train and try to fight their way inside. They quickly overpower the troops, but one sympathetic soldier frees our mutant heroes just in time to fight back. Magneto and the others hold off Vuk and her alien friends in a furious high-speed train fight, while Charles desperately tries to psychically connect with the unconscious Jean. Finally, deep inside her mind, Jean remembers that what's most important to her is protecting her family. She rises up, infused with the cosmic power, and brings the entire train to a violent stop, while shielding the mutants from harm. There in the wreckage, Jean disintegrates the remaining Dabari as they attack her. Then she faces off with Vuk, who now possesses some of the same cosmic power as Jean. Determined to sacrifice herself to protect those she loves, Jean carries Vuk high into space above the Earth, where she disintegrates Vuk as she detonates into the form of a giant fiery phoenix. Jean has evolved beyond our world, but the X-Men continue. Charles retires, leaving Hank in charge of the school, which they renamed the Jean Grey School for Gifted Youngsters. And later, as Eric and Charles reunite at a Paris cafe, a fiery phoenix can be seen high in the sky above them.
So I know they call it that in the comic book and the animated series, but given the events of this movie, wouldn't like the Mystique School for Gifted Youngsters feel a little more appropriate?
They should have thrown her a bone.
She didn't murder any of her teammates. Like,
True.
I know Jean Grey redeemed herself in the end, but there were some dark moments there before.
There's got to be at least a fountain or a statue for Mystique somewhere. Poor girl. All she did was good and she got murdered.
It's too bad. But we had some good action in this final act. The train sequence I thought was the action highlight of the movie, and that's not like a hot take. I feel like it was presented that way and it's supposed to be interpreted that way.
Yeah.
But I liked it. Choreographed, interesting, different. It felt almost like a video game, and the fact that the fight kept changing. Like, all right, now we're fighting against these guys with these weapons, and oh, now we have more powerful weapons and we're fighting against these other guys who are stronger. The movie does try to introduce a little bit of the now mutants are viewed as a heightened threat because of Jean Grey's actions, and how are the people that they've formed this uneasy alliance with reacting to it and turning on them. That felt weirdly apropos in 2025 America, but they didn't follow through on it enough to make it feel like a successful aspect of the story.
Yeah, it was really in the background. There is a moment Professor X tries to call the president and they're like, this line's been disconnected, as a symbol. And you see like the news things running in the background, new internment camps. It's the perennial X-Men story, is that they become ostracized in society. And it's what Charles is talking about the whole time, but it's really just a side note to the main story of this movie, unlike in a lot of the other storylines and films.
Yeah, they even introduced Genosha, which is the island where Magneto lives with his little homies.
Yeah, I didn't know what that was, but I picked up on that it was a refugee camp.
Yeah, they basically give Magneto an island and are like, if you don't leave, we won't bother you. And that's something that's popped up on and off in the comics for decades at this point, in the animated show as well.
Okay.
So I thought that was a cool nod, and that speaks to tensions that were resolved off screen before we got there. Like maybe there was a conflict, they figured it out before it escalated too far. But it's always one of the best aspects of the X-Men is how they're used as a stand-in for marginalized groups, and I feel like we didn't get enough of that in this movie.
Yeah, it was just some background stuff that was happening, but it never came to the foreground.
Was there anything from the train sequence that you particularly liked?
Yeah, you were mentioning how they balanced that fight. It was nice that early on they established that the Dabari were really powerful, really tough, but if you shot them fast enough with a big enough machine gun, you could kill one or two of them. So it kind of like set the balance of power in a good way. And then Magneto gets this cool face-off with Vuk, the showdown of two of the bigger, badder characters on either side, and it happens in this one train car, which is like the armory car for all the soldiers. So there's like 100 M16s on the wall, and he picks them all up and points them at her at once and unloads guns on her in a cool sequence that was just like, that felt like a cool moment and felt like something that I would see in a comic book. So I enjoyed that.
Yeah, and it works great with the powers of Emma Frost. Oh, wait, sorry. No, that's Vuk. It's not Emma Frost, who has diamond skin, and you can't damage her skin.
Oh, see, yeah, I didn't even realize. I was totally oblivious to the leftover vestiges of the Emma Frost character that doesn't exist in this movie.
I did think that having Nightcrawler be the character that kind of goes berserker mode and just starts murking soldiers left and right felt a little out of character, and it felt like a remnant of maybe an earlier draft where they thought they might be able to get Hugh Jackman back. Like, that's some real Wolverine shit. You know, your friend gets killed and all of a sudden you're just lose it and start stabbing folks left and right. But Nightcrawler has always been presented as like a gentle little guy who's got powers and he just wants to help people. Like he's not that dude.
No, but I took that as a little character arc for him because we have seen him. He's always wide-eyed and scared and timid and cautious and just the nicest X-Man. So for me, it was kind of fun to see him just go rabid dog and start putting his tail through people's neck and get real violent. I kind of like, and Cody Smith-McPhee is just, he acts so much with his eyes, which are kind of like the only thing you can see a lot of the time in these shots of Nightcrawler teleporting in and out. To me, like Nightcrawler in this movie, and maybe his role in X-Men in general, is like eye candy, or it's like fun icing on the cake. And he held that up in this movie.
Speaking of that, that's a qualm I had is in the X-Men movies, I think that role, so like in X2, yes, definitely Nightcrawler was presented in that he got like the best sequences where they show off his powers. Like, he had some really cool scenes where he was just teleporting left and right. But in the more recent movies, I think that honor has fallen to Quicksilver, played by Evan Peters, who's in this movie. If you look real fast, he's not in a lot of it, but felt like a missed opportunity to not use him more, because there's been a couple movies now where there's like an extended sequence of Quicksilver doing Quicksilver shit, and it's always filmed in a really cool and interesting way, and it's been a standout moment in all the X-Men movies. And I understand not wanting to go back to that well too much, but just to completely sideline that character feels weird.
Yeah. And you almost don't even notice where he's sidelined. He's actually injured in the hometown battle with Jean. And I think the idea is that he was taken out of commission there, and that's why he doesn't show up for the final battle. But yeah, mostly he's there.
And he pops up in the end. Yeah, he's talking about, actually, I did most of the work.
Yeah, he does some fun joking around, and he does a lot of the saving of the astronauts in the opening sequence. So they kind of used him, but then they're like, okay, we're moving on, which is a shame for Evan Peters, who was pretty awesome.
Yeah, one of my favorite actors working today. Shout out to Detective Colin Zabel from Mayor of Easttown.
Oh my God.
Lest we forget, my fucking absolute boy. Love that guy.
Such the man in that show, to such an extent, because I think I met Evan Peters as Quicksilver, who's like an annoying, smart-ass little character. And he was in Carl's Jr. commercials, maybe even before I saw him in a movie. I saw him in a Carl's Jr. commercial. So I'm like, who's this little smug asshole? And then I saw him in Mayor of Easttown, and I'm like, who is this god tier actor that I love?
Weird too, because the first time we met Quicksilver, isn't it Aaron Taylor Johnson?
Oh, was it?
I think so. I think he was in like the MCU movies as Quicksilver.
Okay.
Quicksilver's Wanda's brother, right?
Yes, that sounds right.
And yeah, I'm fairly certain that was Aaron Taylor Johnson in the Avengers movies, like the old ones, like Age of Ultron. I think was their first one.
Oh, okay.
That might have been before Evan Peters ever played him in the Fox. But now that they're intermingled, it was cool. If you remember WandaVision, they had Quicksilver show up, but it was Evan Peters.
Okay.
So they like were messing with the multiverse idea there, because Elizabeth Olsen's Wanda knows Aaron Taylor Johnson as Quicksilver.
Ah, yes.
But that was showing how her mind was going and slipping, and things were like bleeding in from other universes. That's one of those things where you have two actors playing the same character at the same time, but like they found a way to make it fun.
Yeah. That's almost like a gimmick or a crutch for the MCU, is they can just do their contracts, and then whatever the outcomes are, they go, this is actually a plot point that it's this other actor this time. So much that they end up making fun of themselves for it in Deadpool and shit.
True. Okay. Was there anything about the final Oh, we have to call him in. I'm sorry. Dial 911. Call
okay. Hold on. Oh no, my cell phone died. How am I going to get help? Good thing I have my life alert bracelet on. Let me press the button.
ADR Patrol.
There we go.
All right. What seems to be the problem, sir?
I was watching the finale of Dark Phoenix. Jean Grey was wrestling with Vuk, and his voice came from off screen, and I didn't even know who the fuck was talking, because it was clearly not Jessica Chastain on set. All of a sudden, Vuk goes, "You can't control it. If you kill me, you'll kill them all." And first of all, obviously her face isn't on screen saying those words, but they didn't even find a shot of the back of her head or a long shot with the two of them in the center of the swirling massive energy, anything to indicate who the fuck is talking. You have to pick it up from context clues that the only character whose face they don't show is the one who's talking. And it's like perfectly crisp and clear in the middle of a raging firestorm. So it's some really bad ADR dialogue.
All right. The ADR Patrol has ruled on this. They deem Simon Kinsberg guilty.
Thank you.
His penalty is to keep writing movies and getting paid millions of dollars, yes. I guess. Seems weird.
Yeah. They're going to give him a Star Wars movie? Is that the...
That's, yeah, we'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, apparently the ADR Patrol is some kind of kangaroo court where they hear your case and then decide on it immediately with no jury. Also, Jean Grey was rustling with Vuk. Sounds like she has a gastrointestinal disorder or something and just like shit her pants. That name is so stupid. I'm never going to let go of this. I Googled it too. It's like, is that a character from the comic books? Apparently no. Oh. They made it up for the movie and they came up with Vuk.
It's short. I guess you can put it into people's mouths quickly without a lot of CGI lip action, maybe.
Is that what the criteria should be for naming characters?
Yeah, it's budget-based naming.
And then, of course, we get greeted by a scene from a different movie. They put that scene from The Dark Knight Rises where Christian Bale's at a cafe and he sees Alfred from across the way and they share a knowing look. No, they don't exactly do that, but they do exactly that Professor X is at a Parisian cafe and Magneto sits down and they play chess.
For just
Cool.
no reason.
Just so we could see a phoenix in the sky that I missed the first time I watched the movie.
Yeah, the phoenix in the sky is a cool effect because they did it so small and subtle. I'm like, oh, that was neat. That was fun. But the whole scene it's a wrap-up scene. You don't expect something new to happen. But I guess it shows that they're friends again. But other than that, it's like you expect something to happen to be like, oh, let's start a new chapter together. Or what are you going to do now? Or what did we take from all this? But it's not. It's just, do you want to play chess? No. Okay. I guess I will. And then you tilt up to the sky.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about that scene.
Yeah, there's not much to it.
It was dumb. And for a franchise that's so concerned with what other movies are doing because they changed the villain after they changed it from the Hellfire Club to the Skrull, they changed it again because Captain Marvel has the Skrull as their villain. They're not at all concerned about shamelessly lifting from Nolan for this scene. Like,
yeah, you would think they could come up with something more creative. It just wasn't, I don't know.
even if they just put the cafe in like Pittsburgh or something, like why do we have to go to Europe? Why does everybody retire in Europe?
It's such a cliche. A Paris cafe, drinking coffee. Yeah, put it anywhere. Put it in Croatia. Put it in Phuket, Thailand. I don't know.
Put him in Macau. Fucking Professor X, such a basic bitch. Did you plan this vacation on Pinterest? Fuck out.
Yeah, that's really the problem. These boys are basic.
You basic. Okay. So that is X-Men The Last Stand. Should we check in with Mr. Kinsberg, see what he's been up to?
Oh, yeah, probably not getting any good work anymore.
Probably not. But let's get into his past a little bit. So he's been writing stuff for a long time. He's written some good stuff. He's written Mr. and Mrs. Smith,
Okay.
X-Men Days of Future Past. He's also written some bad stuff like everything else he's ever written. That includes movies like Triple X State of the Union, X-Men The Last Stand, the Chris Pine, Tom Hardy, Reese Witherspoon, I think it was, romantic comedy This Means War,
Weird.
which was straight up garbage. And a favorite of ours from 3 months ago, 2015's Fantastic Four,
Wow.
which was not fantastic. He's only directed one movie since Dark Phoenix. It was 2022's The 355, another huge bomb that critics hated, starring Jessica Chastain. Made $25 million on a $75 million budget, got a 24% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow, that's really missed.
So if we want to pile on Kinsberg again, we have ample opportunity
Sure.
if we so feel. He was the creator and EP of 2019's Twilight Zone reboot, which I didn't watch, but I heard it was okay.
Okay. I did not watch.
But he has nothing that he's directing in the pipeline, but he has no less than 6 projects he's written or is in some stage of writing, including Logan's Run. I guess they're remaking Logan's Run.
Okay.
The Legacy, Luna Park, Here Comes the Flood, Wayland, and an untitled first film of a new Star Wars trilogy.
That is a big gig to get handed. Like, you're still pretty much on top Hollywood, I think, if you're getting Star Wars trilogy restarts.
Or even if you just, as a screenwriter, you're busy enough to have 6 projects in development,
Yeah.
you're fine. And if it's a Star Wars trilogy, I think they would like to avoid the issues they had on the sequel trilogy with different writers and creators managing every installment.
Yeah.
It led to a lot of incongruousness. So he might be pegged for a full trilogy with Star Wars. Who knows?
Yeah.
Good for him. He doesn't deserve it. But what can you do? That's life.
He does something right in Hollywood that makes him very hireable.
He seems like he's just a nice guy. Like he gets along with people.
That's a good quality.
Yeah, I'm sure that goes far in Hollywood. A lot of writers, directors are probably fucking assholes.
Not nice. Yeah.
So yeah, it goes to show. It pays to be nice. But it doesn't mean I want to watch your stupid movies. Let's talk about Sophie Turner. So she's been busy, hasn't done a ton of prestige projects, but she was in the HBO miniseries The Staircase, which got good reviews, and the miniseries Joan, which also got good reviews. And she has 4 projects in production. One I'm pretty excited about. I think she's going to be a great Lara Croft. She's playing Tomb Raider.
Oh, wow.
That's probably why she got all jacked.
Yeah, we saw pictures of her lately and she is ripped.
Yeah, she's been hitting the gym for sure. And as much as we were maybe a little harsh, I do root for her. I think she just seems like a kind person.
She seems cool. She's just the kind of person where she also seems aloof, which is weird for an actor because you want your actors to be super emotive and you relate to them and want to be around them. And she seems like a person who's like a little bit detached and intimidating, which like works for a certain number of characters, but it does feel like it.
I think it worked for Jean Grey up until this movie where they were tried to make her do more.
Yeah.
And just wasn't able to tap into that extra gear. But yeah, there is a certain type of character that she's good at playing and can have a solid career.
She'll do fine.
She's also got Cloud One, Steel, and The Dreadful in production. So we'll see if any of those pan out and turn into something good. I focused on the younger generation of X-Men for this wrap-up segment.
Okay.
We don't need to talk about Fassbender and McAvoy. We all know what they're up to.
They're doing good stuff.
So I decided to pick a small indie actor, not a big star, for the next one. Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh, okay. I've heard of her.
Yeah, she's up and coming. She'll have her breakout soon. Did you watch Winter's Bone yet?
You know what? I started it and I was like immediately too depressed to continue.
It's very depressing, but it's so good. And it's maybe my favorite John Hawkes performance. And if you know me, I like a John Hawkes performance. So
You do love a John Hawkes. He's a dude. He's a good
that's
guy.
a high bar. Yeah. So please, if you have time, check it out.
Okay.
And that goes to the listeners too. Winter's Bone. Jennifer Lawrence's breakout movie. And she was great in it.
Let me throw one back at you that she's done since this movie, Causeway. Did you watch Causeway?
No, I don't know if I've heard of Causeway.
I might have even brought it on the show, I thought.
Okay.
She plays this veteran who's recovering from an injury in her service and struggling to make ends meet.
You did bring it. Brian Tyree Henry. I remember I think I looked at the Wikipedia when you were describing it to me
Yeah.
and I was like, this sounds awesome.
It's a small little indie drama type movie, but really well done. So if you want some Jennifer Lawrence not covering herself in makeup and prosthetics, but just being an actor, this is a good pick.
This feels like the kind of movie our boy Joel should have been in. Joel Edgerton. It's got that kind of vibe.
He could have been, yeah.
So she only did 5 movies between Dark Phoenix and now, including Causeway. Don't Look Up was probably her highest profile movie in that time.
Oh, right.
No Hard Feelings was another one, like the teen sex comedy, which I thought it was cool that she did that movie. It's like a genre that's been dormant for a while. So when you have a big star jumping on board, it can do some good for the industry as a whole, I think.
Yeah, that's a fun choice. I respect that choice by her.
She is playing Ava Gardner in the film Old Blue Eyes.
Interesting.
Which I could see. When I found that out, I looked up Ava Gardner and I was like, yeah, I can see it. She's in an upcoming movie called The Wives, which I read the description of. It sounds pretty cool. And an untitled production with Amy Schumer in development that I really hope is just an old thing that somebody forgot to delete from IMDb because Amy Schumer seems toxic to work with now. I don't know. Nothing she does seems to be well received. And then let's talk about my boy Ty and his muscle suit.
It wasn't even a big muscle suit. There's a couple scenes where he and Nicholas Hoult both wear long sleeve black spandex. What do you call that? Workout wear or like shape wear?
Yeah, athleisure.
Athleisure wear. And Hoult actually looks like he did more work in the gym. Sheridan's not really pulling it off.
Well, 2019, I feel like Hoult was in something else that was he had to be in shape for.
He had to beef up for.
Yeah. Was it Tolkien? No, I'm kidding.
It wasn't. That was all I could think of.
Yo, Nick Holt's Wikipedia is massive. He's got a whole section for philanthropy. Good for him. We love to see it. 2019 was Tolkien, but that's not why he was getting jacked. He was in The Great. I don't know. Maybe he was just wanting to get in shape. I don't know. But we love some Nick Hoult. Seems like a good apple. So Ty Sheridan, he got his start in a very specific genre. His first 2 roles that anyone paid attention to him for were troubled older guy takes wayward youth under his wing in The Backwoods.
Oh, he had 2 of those movies?
Yeah, he had Mud with Matthew McConaughey, which I'm quite fond of. Great movie.
Yeah, I love that movie.
And Joe with Nicolas Cage, where it's the same exact movie.
Oh, he does the same thing? Oh,
it's the same exact movie.
I never saw Joe, but I love Mud.
It's also good. So if you liked Mud, you'll like Joe.
Oh, okay.
Which is funny because those are both alternate names for coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Cup of Joe, little cup of Mud.
There's something going on here. The Illuminati are giving us messages through Hollywood productions.
Maybe we should cut this. I don't want to get fucking stabbed with a nerve agent when I'm walking down the street and we figured out a mystery. Yeah, you know the genre of movie I'm talking about. It's a classic.
Yeah, he really stood out as a kid actor in Mud. I was like, oh shit, this kid can act. Like he feels like a real person and not like a child's role.
He has matured into a indie leading man of some renown. He was in The Card Counter, which I was mentioned really liked. The Tender Bar with Ben Affleck, which I didn't see, but I heard good things about.
Okay.
Asphalt City with Sean Penn, which I did watch on a lark one night because it's the kind of movie that used to go direct to video, but now it just goes direct to streaming. It's like they play EMTs and they get caught up in some drama.
Okay.
It was passable, but he was in The Order last year, which I really liked. I think I brought that for show and tell. And that was with Nicholas Hoult as well. They were both in that movie together.
Oh, okay. I remember you telling me about that one. I should watch that. That looks cool.
You would love it. It's real dirtbag crime royalty.
Nice.
Highly recommend. So that wraps up X-Men The Last Stand. Ian, do you have any idea what we're doing next episode?
No idea.
It's going to be is it only our second? We've only done one animated movie before this. Can that be true?
I remember
Treasure Planet.
Treasure Planet. That was the one that came to mind.
That might be it. We're doing Lightyear.
Oh my gosh. That
Yeah.
movie like barely exists.
I know, but I've seen it several times because I have kids.
Oh, okay.
This will be a breeze for me prep wise. I could recite that movie from memory. Really curious to hear what you think about it. I won't give away too much about my feelings on it, but we'll touch base obviously in 2 weeks and see where we're at.
Yeah, that was a movie that came and went, and like I heard it existed, and then I guess people didn't like it.
It doesn't have a good 2-sentence pitch. You can't explain what it is in any meaningful way without getting into the weeds a little bit, which I think
see.
really harmed it, trying to explain what it is.
Interesting.
Like, why isn't Tim Allen in this? This is an animated movie about the real Buzz Lightyear that the toy in the Toy Story movie is based on. So he sounds different.
Oh gosh, yeah. I never even picked up on that.
It's a weird concept, but we'll see where we're at with it. And as for the rest of you, our listeners, thanks so much for listening. Once again, you can follow us on Twitter at Blast Zone Pod, Blue Sky. It was giving me problems. I was trying to upload the latest episode to Blue Sky, but it wasn't working, but I think I fixed it.
Okay.
So you can find us on there. You can also email us, blastzonepod@gmail.com. If you have any questions, movie suggestions, feedback, just want to talk about movies, you can also rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. We love when you do that.
That'd be nice.
As long as the ratings and reviews are positive.
Yeah, let's try to keep positive in the comments section, folks.
If you're mad at us, then just email us.
Let's handle that in private.
Thank you very much. And we'll see you next time in the Blast Zone.
See you next time in the Blast Zone.
The Blast Show.